Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have a Netflix 407th film from 2021. It's the German action, horror, crime, thriller, vampire film called Blood Red Sky. This one is directed by Peter Thorwarth and stars Peri Baumeister, Roland Moller, Chidi Ajufo, Alexander Scheer and Dominic Purcell. I am Jesse. I am your host. Thank you for joining me today on this special Christmas bonus episode. Probably the genre and theme and idea of this film is anything but Christmas, but this is the time where we're putting out a few extra bonus episodes for you guys as a special gift as our listeners in this festive season. So, as always, if this film is one you haven't seen, Blood Red Sky, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on because we will spoil this film as we go. So, we start the show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So, this one, it's about a mother and a son who get on a plane to go to New York to see a doctor who can cure her bad blood. There we go. Oh, I don't mind that one. It's okay. A very interesting film. A little bit of interesting things to listen to and talk about in relation to it hitting Netflix. The idea, the title of the film, Blood Red Skies, because this is a plane where there is a vampire invasion, I guess. So that's what that refers to around the world. In Slovenian, Greek, and Serbian, it's called Bloody Sky. So very close. Makes sense. Romanian, it's called A Sky as Red as Blood. Again, ties in with the idea. In the air with blood. In Czech, it's called Blood or Red. Sure. Chinese, it's called Blood Red Heavenly Tribulation. Funny title. In Turkish, it's called Red Skies. And in Vietnamese, it's called Blood Stained Sky. So all tie in with that word of blood and red and what's happening in in the sky as this film goes on. The Netflix intro line for this film was, they had a perfect plan: hijack a plane and hold passengers ransom. But there's another threat on board, ... and she's far more deadly. Nice. And then their logline on Netflix was, when a group of terrorists hijack an overnight transatlantic flight, a mysterious ill woman must unleash a monstrous secret to protect her young son. So there you go, a little bit more context around the plot of the film if you needed it. The working title for this film was Transatlantic 473, as well as Blood Air in German. So again, Transatlantic 473 probably takes away a little bit of the idea of giving too much away for the audience, and I think that's probably something that for me was interesting. I didn't know anything about the film. I try not to read anything about the films before doing the episode, so for me this was a bit of a surprise when it turned into a vampire film. All right, we go to September the 11th of 2020, where it was announced that filming was in Prague for the film, which was known as Transatlantic 473, like I said before, was temporarily closed because an extra tested positive for COVID-19. So we're still in that range of films that were being made during that time. And obviously they had to shut down production. This is one of 71 original films that Netflix released in 2021, which was a part of their strategy at the time to release at least one new film every week. We're only sort of into July of 2021 on this show, so we're only about halfway through those 71 films from 2021. Netflix did report that the film was watched by 50 million subscribers over its first 4 weeks of release, making it the most successful German original title to date, and it hit number 1 around the world on the Netflix charts. So a pretty positive from audiences and for Netflix with this film. And then due to the success of the film, a sequel reportedly began development by Netflix a few months after the release of the film. Thorwarth, the director, declined to direct the sequel, stating, "I'm looking for the next challenge." Further details such as the plot and casting have not yet been confirmed, and I don't think it's hit production yet, so very, very interesting there. In 2025, IndieWire placed the film among their list of the 25 scariest movies on Netflix, so there you go, it's hit one of the lists that people are putting together in relation to Netflix films. I also thought this was a little bit funny, and this is big spoiler territory, but there is a character, Farid, and in the final scene of the film, he's handcuffed behind his back, even though earlier in the film, one of his hands was amputated. I thought that was quite funny. But anyway, let's keep moving. This did have a budget of $17.7 million, so decent amount of money spent on this film. And as I said before, this was filmed in a variety of locations around Europe. So Prague in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Cologne and Dusseldorf in Germany. So bit of a traveling around to get some scenes. This did hit Netflix on the 23rd of July 2021, and it was nominated at the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards for Best Makeup Effects. So there you go. Nice little recognition there for this film. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? So on Rotten Tomatoes, from the critics, this sits at 81%. That's on 31 reviews. That is fresh. Not certified, but definitely fresh. Audience, a little bit lower, 58%. That's on more than 500 ratings, though, so that's a lot of ratings. On IMDb, has 59,000 ratings. It sits at a 6.1 out of 10, which is very solid. Letterboxd, a little bit lower, 2.6 out of 5, but that's on nearly 65,000 ratings, and it's been logged by 84,000 people. Metacritic, the critics have it in yellow on that traffic light system of red, yellow, and green. 6 critic reviews, sits at 43 out of 100, but if we move over to the audience reception, it's green. It is in the positives. On 72 reviews, it sits at a 6.1 out of 10. So the same as IMDb, super positive. There we go. So a bit of a mixed bag. What are my early thoughts on this one? I was pleasantly surprised, I think. The opening scene made me think that it was almost a political hostage thriller, and I was completely wrong, obviously, and this is because I knew very little about the film going into it. It just goes crazy and continues to hold the tension throughout the film. It's very well done, very on the edge of your seat throughout, so I enjoyed this. This was good. Let's talk about the characters, and I've probably got to say there is very little character development throughout the film. You learn bits and pieces about the characters, but this film is about being a vampire film, let's be honest. So the characters in this film, Naja is our main character. She's a loving mother and wife, and when the family are on a trip in the snow, their car breaks down in the middle of this snowstorm. The husband goes off to get help. He gets eaten by a vampire. Then she gets turned into one too. And because of her motherly instincts, she adapts so that she can continue to take care of her son, even if this means staying out of the sunlight, living off a bunch of drugs and bloods to stay sane in the human world. And obviously it's getting too much. And we're at the stage in this film where they're traveling across the Atlantic Ocean to get help, see another doctor to see if she can have some sort of, change in her life so she continue to see her son develop and grow. And her son, Elias, is the innocent soul of the film, I guess, but is super intelligent for his age, probably because he's had to learn fast to ensure he doesn't become his mother's prey. There is a reason why he is so knowledgeable about time zones around the world and things like that, because he's obviously doing what he can to support his mother too. The two characters I'll mention that we meet on the plane. Farid is this scientist who is very kind to Elias early on before they board the plane, because Elias is there by himself without his mother, just checking in by himself, and he's friendly to him. And he reveals he's a scientist who's on board the plane to head to New York City for a conference. So that's why he's getting on the plane. But he's almost been lured there by terrorists and is set up by terrorists merely because of his cultural background. But he steps into the almost hero of the narrative to protect Elias throughout when his mother, Naja, loses control and her vampire tendencies take over. And that's where he steps in and stands up as well. 8-Ball is the main villain of this film. There are a variety of terrorists and henchmen and random characters throughout that you'd think as you're watching, what's going to happen with them? What are they going to be like? They all sort of turn into nothing, to be honest, because 8-Ball is the one you've got to focus on. None of them need to be mentioned compared to him. He's so crazy over the top that he takes Naja's blood to inject into himself so he can be as wild as her. So he's the villain, and that's what we see throughout the rest of the film on the plane is how do they prevent this disease of vampirism spreading across the world. The director, Peter Thorwarth, German director, has 17 directing credits, and one includes another Netflix original film in 2023, which we'll cover at some stage, but it's called Blood and Gold. So another film with the title Blood, with the word blood in the title. The scenes. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes I enjoyed? What didn't I like in this one? I think the things that worked, the whole opening had me hooked. There's a plane that lands. There's this whole military setup of trying to intercept this plane and work out what's going on. Is it terrorists? What's happening? There's this beautiful mountainous scenery that surrounds this setup on this runway, and Elias rocks up as a kid. Like, I mean, he gets dropped from the plane, and then we cut to him as a small kid by himself, checking in for this flight by himself. And I really wanted to know what was going on. How did he end up here and what's happened? So they did that really well. This 8-ball character I mentioned before, the first victim or the first guy, he just stabs over and over. And this highlighted how insane he was and what he was prepared to do and what was to come in the film as well. Naja gets shot early in the film, and that threw me a bit. I obviously had no idea that this was a vampire film before watching it. I hadn't clicked onto the clues that she was a vampire yet. So when she was shot, I was like, oh no, this poor kid, he's on this flight by himself with these terrorists. What's going to happen? And obviously that didn't happen anyway. So the other thing I like, Naja holds the door to the cockpit to keep the terrorists out of it when she's in there. And there's just this quick cut. She's so angry and she screams, and she's got like the vampire face on. I thought that was good. That was a good reveal. Things that didn't work. 8-ball, this 8-ball character. There's a scene where he's in the car, or in a car that's in the cargo under the plane, and Naja tries to burn him up. And it just felt a little bit over the top. You're on this plane in the air, and you're going to light this whole car on fire. And I don't know. I know they put it out really easily, and that was solved, but it just felt a bit weird. Naja, she amputates Farid's hand, and then, you know, she needed to do it to stop the spread of the disease or stop him becoming a vampire. And his response to Elias was, your mum helped me. It just felt a little bit lame. Naja, at one stage, she asks Farid to promise to look after Elias before she turns, and then she just turns and eats the pilot on the plane. That was funny. And Elias jumps out of a moving ambulance at the end. This kid is an action hero. Like, it just was a little bit too much. What's the film saying? What are the themes? What are the ideas? What are the motifs? Obviously, there's that idea of disease and the spread of it and trying to prevent it, but capitalism and the susceptibility, I guess, to fear-based manipulation throughout, and wanting, this is seen through some of the passengers on the plane throughout, which I haven't touched on as characters because they're more there to push the themes and the ideas, but wanting to be able to pay your way out of pain or a situation, or being happy to turn yourself into a vampire or to get a disease to ensure your own survival, and the idea of being respectful or having a go at people doing menial jobs and harassing them and complaining about Wi-Fi not working and those sorts of things because of that self-worth or that self-belief due to having money and being able to pay your way out. There's a big throughout the film the idea of the injustice of Islamophobia and the idea of stereotypes and how poor that can be and how wrong that can be. The ways that humans sort of fail each other at times when their survival is on the line, that plays throughout as well. I think the big thing you've got to take away from this film is the idea of a mother and son bond too, and the lengths that parents will go to not only keep their kids safe, but to hide their monstrous side from them as well. And finally, compliance in this film, always following directions, doesn't necessarily get you to where you need to be. Other than that, what else did I take away from the film? I've touched on this a lot already, but I obviously had no idea this was a vampire film. So when it clicked to me as to why the mother needed the plane to turn her away from the son, and why she didn't check her bags in with her son and didn't come to the airport until nighttime, I like that. That was a nice reveal to me because I hadn't seen the trailer. I had no idea what was going on in this film as well. We have a segment sometimes where we discuss if we jumped onto IMDb to check anyone out. I didn't jump onto IMDb, but I did mention this at the end of the last episode where I said Dominic Purcell is going to be in this film, and he's an Australian, Aussie through and through, from Prison Break, not Wentworth Miller, but the other guy. And there's this moment in the film where his Aussie accent, it's just there. It's just thick and clear, and he forgets to do his whatever accent he's trying to do. So I thought that was quite funny. Some other questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas to finish the show off. The question, like, why did the terrorists want to take over the plane? They obviously use passengers on the plane to throw ideas about screwing up the stock market or changing politics or things like that. But I mean, maybe it's not the point of the film. It doesn't matter what their motif was or their motive. I'm intrigued. I really think, you know, especially when you're going to push the idea of terrorism, that there needs to be some sort of message that it's not acceptable. Naja, there's a moment at the airport at nighttime that before they board, she buys her son Elias a basketball. They make a big deal about him bouncing it and wanting it, and he's using it before they board. Why didn't they use this as a plot point somewhere else? I felt like the focus was so much on him getting this basketball that it could have been used as a weapon or something, and I was just wondering why. Did they end up cutting a scene out or something? Because that, to me, it was a clear motif that they were trying to show. Finally, the only other thing, I'm not even sure if I wasn't paying attention properly, but the teddy bear that Elias had at the end, did he have it at any other stage in the film except when he got off the plane at the end? I don't know. It just felt like, again, that instead of the basketball at the start, why don't you have him with the teddy bear? That would have made more sense. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this up. We give the film a rating out of 5. For me, I felt on edge the whole time, so that made the film work for me. It was even if it does have a pretty heavy ending that I haven't discussed in this show, so I think you can still probably watch this film and still be surprised. I think you can probably read into that. I'm not going to say what happened, but I think the theme or the idea is the idea of letting go and letting the freedom of a mother occur if that's in the best case of the child. So it's worth a watch. I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. Solid film for me. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like if you can. The question I wanted to put on social media for this episode is, what's your favorite vampire film? There's obviously so many, good films throughout the ages that relate to vampires. Please don't say Twilight, but like films like Dusk to Dawn or The Lost Boys. What are some good vampire films that you could recommend for people to watch? Other than that, we are back again in a couple of days for another special bonus episode during this Christmas season. The next film we do have is another international film. This one's from Poland. It's from 2021, and it is called Bart Kowiak. It's an action film. It's directed by Daniel Markowitz and stars Simon Bobrowski, Janusz Chibior, and Zofia Domilik. So take the time to watch that one, give it a go, and I will see you back here for that episode then. Thanks as always for hanging out.